If you are looking for a destination that has mind-blowing landscapes, jaw-dropping views, sexy dance moves, and more red meat and wine than you probably need to consume in a lifetime, well then you, my friend, have got to visit Argentina. It's Allie from Alle Abroad, and on my channel, I help overpacking, luxury-loving, independent women turn their bucket list travel dreams into reality. And today, I am sharing everything that you need to know before you visit the fabulous country of Argentina. Today's episode is part of my Abroad at Home bucket list series, where I teach you about some of my favorite bucket list worthy destinations around the world in the hopes of inspiring you to add them to your list and just get you started planning your next great adventure once it is safe to do so, of course. And if you haven't done so already, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss where we are virtually traveling to next. And if you're new to my Gals Abroad squad, make sure that you introduce yourself in the comments below. I like to describe Argentina as beautifully intense. It's a country that's overflowing with passion. I mean, hello, it is the home of the tango. And its culture is really a mix of European, Latin, and indigenous traditions. And it's really this unique blend of heritage that makes Argentina such a fascinating destination. Now, Argentina is a massive country. It's the second largest country in South America, and it stretches more than 2,000 miles from north to south. And it's really for that reason that Argentina's landscape and climate is incredibly diverse. I mean, from the cosmopolitan streets of Buenos Aires, known as the Paris of South America, and the jungles surrounding Iguazu Falls, to the icy glaciers of Patagonia and the vast wine regions of Mendoza. Argentina is just one of those places that quite literally has something to offer everyone. Argentina's official language is Spanish, and I highly recommend brushing up on some key phrases before you visit. But if you're a fluent Spanish speaker, you might find yourself scratching your head just a little bit because there are some key differences between Argentinian Spanish and Spanish spoken in, say, like Mexico or Spain. You'll mostly just notice differences in pronunciation, verbs, and even gestures. And I always just recommend spending some time before you travel practicing your Spanish on an app like Duolingo, and then just having Spanish loaded into your Google Translate app if you find yourself in a pinch. In my experience, I found that English is more commonly spoken among the younger generation, and certainly in tourist areas like the hotels we were staying at and the big cities and many of the restaurants that we dined at. The currency in Argentina is the Argentine peso, and generally speaking, cash is really king here. And while I used my Chase Sapphire Reserve credit card whenever possible, there are certain places, mostly not in the main cities, where cards just aren't accepted. Also, do be aware that ATM fees can be steep, sometimes $10 just to take out money. So I would suggest taking out kind of like a larger sum once you arrive so you can cut down on those trips to the ATM and the fees. Oh, and just a heads up, it's customary to tip 10%, but do be aware that at restaurants, you cannot add the tip to the bill. So you're gonna need to have cash on hand in order to tip. Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires. I'm going to try and properly pronounce Buenos Aires in the proper form rather than the Americanized version, which would be Buenos Aires, because my dear sweet friend Stephanie corrected me while I was on this trip, and I have been working hard ever since to try and properly pronounce it. So just had to put this little caveat in there that I am trying my hardest to sound legit. Okay, back to the video. I highly recommend flying into Buenos Aires, and from Chicago, the flying time was about 12 hours all in. But because there were no direct flights, we did have to connect through Dallas, and then we did the 10-ish hour flight overnight, and then arrived in BA International Airport the next morning. Now, the drive into central BA is about 30 to 50 minutes, depending on traffic, and I highly recommend arranging a private transfer ahead of time, just once you arrive in Buenos Aires. You know, after a long haul flight, honestly, for me personally, the last thing I want to worry about is having to figure out and navigate public transport or finding a taxi. So we arranged our transfer via our hotel. We were staying at the Four Seasons, and it was just one of the services that they provided was a transfer from the airport to the hotel. Now, if you do work with a travel agency like my mom's, Scorby Travel and Cruise, they will take care of all your flights, transfers, accommodations, bookings, everything. Plus, they will be with you every step of the way to just ensure that all you have to worry about is enjoying yourself. So if you're interested in learning more about working with a travel agency, I'm dropping their website in the description of this video in case you need help planning your future next great adventure to Argentina or beyond. This is a short one because good news, my American friends, you do not need a visa to visit Argentina if you are planning to stay less than 90 days. Cool? In terms of navigating the main cities in Argentina, we found that our best and easiest option was just to have the hotel that we were staying at call a taxi for us. And one of the interesting things that many of the luxury hotels did that we were staying at was when we were leaving, they handed us like a little card. I wish I had one to show you, but basically they said for us to use it to call for a taxi when we were ready to leave the restaurant or destination that we were at. And I honestly just found this super handy and just honestly nice to know that we had a reputable taxi that was headed our way. But if you do need to catch a taxi on the fly, which is what we had to do sometimes, your best option is to look for an official taxi, which is black and yellow, and it will have this like rooftop sign on it that says radio taxi. We also did use Uber a few times in Buenos Aires, and do be aware that at the time of me recording this video, Uber in BA is illegal. But you do also have the option of using an app called Cabify, which is legal. And quick, just a heads up, some taxis accept cards, but a vast majority only take cash. So it's good to just have a few hundred pesos on hand. And in terms of tipping, it's customary to just round up the fare. So let's say the ride was 128 pesos, it would be a good tip to round up to anything like 150 or less. In terms of moving from major city to major city, I mean, like I said, this country is massive, so you will absolutely need to fly from one destination to the next. But there are options for also these long overnight buses, which is what Linda and I did on our journey from BA to Mendoza. And I gotta say that the experience wasn't really as bad as I was expecting. Now, it was a 14-hour ride, and you're basically in these like big plush kind of like lazy boy recliner chairs the whole time. So really not that bad, all things considered. But I do have to say that once the ride was over, I needed a shower very badly. This is what post 14 hours on a bus looks like.
But your video doesn't provide one element.
What?
Scent.
Smell-o-vision. Thank God you can't smell us right now. But it is an option if you're looking to maybe cut down on costs a little bit, and also maybe an option if the flight schedules are just not working out for your itinerary. Next week, I'm gonna dive deep into the top 10 places and things you need to see and do in Argentina. But I will quickly run you through some of my top spots in this video. So generally speaking, I recommend flying into Buenos Aires and spending 3 to 4 days here depending on how much time you have, because there is so much to see and do in Argentina's capital city. Then you can head down to the Patagonia region, which is at the southernmost tip of the country and where you will be blown away by the massive mountains, untouched plains, and of course, the iconic glaciers. This part of the country honestly feels like you're on a totally different planet, and it is an adventure seeker's paradise. On the totally opposite end of the spectrum, head back north to check out Iguazu Falls, which was named one of the new 7 wonders of the world, and is this insane grouping of more than 200 waterfalls that actually makes it the largest broken waterfall in the world. How cool is that, right? Okay, so this part of the country is home to lush rainforests and thousands of these exotic plants, animals, birds, all the things. It's like straight up Jungle Book, my friends. I will end with my personal favorite destination, which is Mendoza. Give me all the malbec. And if you haven't guessed already, this region of the country is known as Argentina's wine capital, and it is home to world-class vineyards, cosmopolitan hotels, and delicious restaurants. I'm drooling just thinking about it. Our first tasting of the day at 10:30 a.m., having some malbec.
That's the way to start your day.
In my opinion, this is like the perfect place to end your stay before you head back home. And if you want to go even more in depth on these destinations and more, just make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss next week's video. This one's a bit tricky because honestly, the best time to visit Argentina entirely depends on where you want to go. But also do keep in mind that the seasons are opposite of what they are in the northern hemisphere. So generally speaking, visiting in the fall, which is from March to May, and in the spring, which is between September and November, are when the temperatures are the mildest. Winter is from July to August, and summer is between December and March. And you know, generally speaking, summer tends to be kind of like the high season for travel, so just do keep in mind that room rates will be higher at this time, as well as temps, which sometimes reach triple digits in some parts of the country. Linda and I visited in late April and found that this was the perfect time for the perfect crisp autumn temperatures that were in kind of like the mid to upper 60s. Plus, if you are a fall freak like Linda and I are, you'll totally enjoy seeing autumn leaves in April, which is like honestly a total trip. I will get into packing essentials later in the video, but all I have to say right now is pack layers, my friends, because no matter what time of the year you're visiting, it does tend to get a bit chilly in the evenings. One of the #1 questions Linda and I got before we left for Argentina is, oh my God, aren't you worried about safety? And you know, I think that this question is kind of born out of the understanding that petty theft can be common, and you know, the political and economic landscape of the country has been turbulent. So I can really only speak from my personal experience, but we had no issues. And in Buenos Aires, I mean, Linda and I ventured to many of the popular barrios on our own. We took taxis and even took one, as I mentioned, arduous 14-hour overnight bus journey, and we truly never felt unsafe. But all of that being said, I do want to leave you with some helpful safety tips that our local guides shared with us in case it's helpful to you. So as a good rule of thumb, just leave your flashy jewelry or designer bags at home. Be mindful not to walk around with like your phone in your hand because it could get snatched. And just as a general rule, anywhere you travel in the world, avoid the protests. Argentina is a bit tricky when it comes to making a blanket statement about affordability. The country is really no stranger to economic troubles, which unfortunately can mean that when the value of their peso plummets, it for the most part benefits foreign tourists. But it is important to keep in mind that many of the hotels in destinations like Buenos Aires do price their rooms in dollars, meaning that bargains are really hard to find. But where you will find savings is when you're out to eat at local attractions or even shopping for souvenirs. Personally, I remember when Linda and I would go out to eat, I think we were both blown away by how affordable our meals were. I remember one steakhouse, we got like 2 steaks, a nice bottle of wine, because you know Linda and I were total wine snobs, and a few appetizers, and it was like $75, not including tip, which is insane. We went to like these bougie cocktail places, got 2 craft cocktails and maybe some appetizers, and all in it was 20 bucks. So you really can ball out on a budget when eating out in Argentina. Speaking of eating out, we gotta talk about the food situation, and there are a few quintessential Argentinian staple dishes that you need to try when you're there. Okay, first up, cover your ears, vegetarians. Yep, good. Red meat is as central to the Argentinian culture as, say, pasta is to Italy and sushi is to Japan. I mean, you will have plenty of opportunities to enjoy a steak in Argentina, and your options are truly endless when it comes to finding like a fabulous parrilla, which is a steakhouse to dine at. I hope I said that correctly. Parrilla, 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 parrilla. I'm trying, you guys. I'm trying so hard to get these pronunciations. Please be kind. Also, empanadas are totally a thing here. And fun fact, you can actually tell what's inside of the empanada by the various ways they're folded. And you cannot leave Argentina without trying its national drink, which is mate. And it's this like caffeine-packed infusion of dried leaves of the yerba mate plant and hot water. Honestly, the whole process of drinking mate is very much a ritual, and you drink it from a cup that's made out of this gourd, and there's this like metal straw that filters out all the dry leaves, and it's very common for like a group of friends to all just share one cup and pass it around from like person to person. I don't know what the policy is about that in post 2020, but anyways, you will constantly see locals carrying around these specific cases that are just simply made to carry around their like thermos and cups. It is such a serious ritual, and you need to try it before you leave. Quick tip for you, when you're in Buenos Aires, I highly recommend booking the Argentine Experience, which is this super fun half like cooking class, half 3-course meal, where you basically learn how to make empanadas, prepare your own mate, and dig into, of course, a delicious steak. Also, heads up, Argentinians eat late, like super late. Restaurants like don't typically open for dinner until about 7 or 8 p.m. And if you do book a reservation at that time, just a heads up, you are gonna be eating with like your fellow tourists. So if you do wanna do as the locals do, try and snag a reservation for after 9 p.m. And peak dining times are between 10 and 11 p.m. And believe me, the grandma inside of me is dying. Like, that is so late, but listen, you're in another country. It's best to do as the locals do, right? Again, I will dive deeper into these suggestions in next week's video, but I do just want to give you a little taste of what some of my top 5 favorite experiences were in Argentina. Okay, first up, you cannot leave this country without seeing a tango show. And I'm gonna take this one step further and say that you have to see a show at Faena Hotel in Buenos Aires. It's flashy, modern, and includes a delicious dinner. Plus, the Faena Hotel is just super sexy and cool. And if you're looking for a great hotel rec in Buenos Aires, definitely stay here. Some of my other highlights include seeing Iguazu Falls from both the Argentina and the Brazil side, horseback riding through the vineyards in Mendoza, watching the Perito Moreno glacier calve, and that's just a fancy word for when part of the glacier breaks off, and it's the most like earth-shattering loud noise ever. It is so epic, you have to see it. And fun little, tip for you, make sure that you come back with some sort of leather good item, which is where this hat is from. You're probably wondering like why I was wearing a hat inside. It's kind of my thing, but also I felt like I needed to wear my Argentina hat, and I love it, and I think that you should get one too. Packing for Argentina is a true art form because you could, and honestly most likely you will, be experiencing drastically different climates between destinations. So that's why layering is so important, and I probably could make an entire guide about how to pack for Argentina, so if you want that, let me know in the comments. But for now, I'll just speak as if you are traveling to Patagonia, Iguazu, Buenos Aires, and Mendoza, and just mention a few essentials that I think that you might need. Number 1 is having something like one of these super compact down puffers that are light, warm, and fold up super tiny. I wore this guy, of course, in Patagonia, but it's nice to have if it gets chilly in any of the other destinations and you just don't really want to have like a big bulky winter coat in your suitcase. So something like this is perfect. Number 2 is having one of these like waterproof shell type jacket things. And this will be good to have on hand when you're visiting Iguazu Falls, because obviously it's a massive waterfall, so you're gonna get wet from the spray. So good to just have one of these on hand to put over your clothes if you just don't wanna be like, you're not gonna get soaking wet unless you go under the waterfall, which is what you can do, and it's very fun. But if you're just walking around, just nice to have one of these. Number 3, Buenos Aires and Mendoza are very cosmopolitan destinations. So personally, I liked to dress up if I was going to dinner, a vineyard, or even like a tango show. And something like flowy dresses, or something like this, paired with like a moto jacket on top in case it was a little bit chilly, would be perfect. On the opposite end of things, Patagonia is so chill, and you're most likely gonna be wearing like hiking gear pretty much anywhere you go. Some other things that you might wanna pack are some good hiking boots. I personally like these Danner ones. You'll wanna have some waterproof socks, some good quality socks because blisters, and then I also have this thing in here, which is not really specific to Argentina. I carry it wherever I go traveling, but having one of these like adapter voltage converter power strips is super nice, because typically you only have like one little converter that plugs into the wall, and you only just like plug one thing in at a time. And honestly, this is just so nice to have. Like, I don't know, I plug my computer in here, my phone, etc. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm linking all of these things that I just mentioned in the description of this video in case you need to pick up any one or all of these things for your trip to Argentina, or any trip that you might be taking in the future. Okay guys, I know that we covered a lot, but I hope that this video kind of gives you an idea of what to expect on your first trip to Argentina, and also just inspires you to add it to your list. I mean, I was completely blown away by this destination, and I know you will be too. Oh, quick heads up, next week, Linda is gonna be joining me, and we are gonna be breaking down the top 10 places that you need to visit in Argentina. So if you're looking for like a little bit more guidance when it comes to planning a future trip to Argentina, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss that video. P.S. Linda is my mom, who's also a luxury travel advisor, just in case you're new here. And if you need help planning your next adventure, whether that's to, Argentina or wherever it might be, make sure to check out my mom's travel agency, Scorby Travel and Cruise. I'm gonna put it in the description of this video. And I think that's all, folks. So thanks for watching. And if you need just even more inspo on where to travel next, or even just help creating your travel bucket list, make sure that you check out these videos right here. And I will catch you guys in next week's video. And just remember that adventure awaits all of us. Mwah! Bye!